Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotah v'tzavanu la'asot b'vderei Torah. Blessed are you, Lord, ruler of the universe, who has sanctified us with the commandments and commanded us to study words of Torah. And this is what we seek to do today. So as the Torah reading begins in Exodus chapter 25. Adonai said to Moshe, "Tell the people of Israel to take up a collection for me. Accept a contribution from anyone who wholeheartedly wants to give." I think that's powerful. Very powerful. Because this is an element that we often lose. When we think of the children of Israel in the wilderness, it's almost always negative. Yeah? I mean, after all, they had to spend 40 years wandering. And so we see all the judgments that came upon them. But here is something that we can really rejoice in and admire. Because, boy, were they generous. And we're going to take a close look at that. But before we continue the reading here, there's another reading for today that I want to cover. And it's because today is the Shabbat before Purim. And the Shabbat before Purim is called the Shabbat of Remembrance. Shabbat Zakor. Shabbat Shakor. So there's a short reading that we're going to use that is a reading for Shabbat Shakor, the Sabbath before Purim. Okay, so here it is. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel that they bring me an offering from everyone who gives it willingly with his heart." Sorry, wrong reading. Yeah. That's what I started with. All right. Sorry. All right. "Remember what Amalek did to you on the way you were coming out of Egypt, how he met you on the way and attacked your rear ranks. All the stragglers at your rear when you were tired and weary, and he did not fear God. Therefore, it shall be, when the Lord your God has given you rest from your enemies all around in the land which the Lord your God is giving you to possess as an inheritance, that you will blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. You shall not forget." Yes. This is Deuteronomy 25. Yeah, sorry. Deuteronomy 25. Now, yes, we are in Shemot, Exodus 25. But this short reading for the Shabbat of Remembrance is Deuteronomy 25, verses 17 through 19. Okay? And so the point is, this text is considered a command from God to all generations of the people of Israel. Wow. So this is a good test for us because most of us, certainly myself, come from denominations that were steeped in replacement theology, which the interpretation is that the church replaced Israel. And so they have very little acknowledgement of Israel, and currently, and even the nation of Israel. They have very little recognition of even Old Testament. In fact, what we're doing today, this reading that we're going to do today in Shemot and Exodus, is often very much neglected because it appears very tedious to the mind that is not in tune with the Torah and the patterns that God is bringing forth through the Torah. There's beautiful patterns here. And Tony Robinson will do a great service for us in this regard in today's lesson. But this particular reading that we started off with here for Shabbat Sukkot, the remembrance, the Shabbat of remembrance, is actually focused on Amalek. Now, we have an example of how powerful this is. And it's a good part of the lesson for us. When King Saul this is hundreds of years later, defeated Agag, the king of Amalek, he was commanded by God to wipe them all out. And this went back all the way back to this commandment. God said, you shall not forget. But King Saul did forget. Even though he'd been reminded directly by a command from God. He spared Agag, king of the Amalekites. And the prophet Samuel comes. I remember this vividly when I first heard this. It seemed so violent to me. Here, King Saul is showing mercy to this king, and Samuel comes and lops off his head. We're missing part of the point here. We missed all that. We leap over because we did not follow what happened. Because we didn't see how the Amalekites had terrorized Israel during the wilderness wanderings. Not just at this one instance, but so what did King Saul lose at that point? Oh, he lost his kingship and he lost his kingdom because he disobeyed, because he did not remember. We also should remember, and we have occasion to remember as well. If you get a chance, how many have been to the Holocaust Museum in D.C.? If you get a chance, go to the Holocaust Museum in D.C. What's that?
I was at the one in London. I don't know.
Okay, well, that's a good substitute, but it's really good. The only one better would be to go to Jerusalem, to Israel. There's a Holocaust Museum there. All right. But in the Holocaust Museum in D.C., you will find hundreds, if not thousands, of Christians who are honored by Israel because they risked their lives to save Jews. So it's not just a remembrance, not just a remembrance not to forget and to recognize that there are still those who are anti-Semitic who want to destroy Israel. But it's also to remember those who aligned themselves with Israel. And they bless those people. And they remember them. And they're thankful and grateful to them. In fact, I found out that there were those who were not, who were destitute following that. And Israel provided a pension for Christians. A pension for Christians who had no means of income to sustain them. Even if they had only saved one Jew, they still honored them to that extent. So, that's a remembrance. We start that reading off. Now, for the Torah reading today, let's begin again at 25:1 in Shemot. Adonai said to Moshe, "Tell the people of Israel to take up a collection for me. Accept a contribution from anyone who wholeheartedly wants to give. The contribution that you are to take from them is to consist of gold, silver, and bronze, blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, fine linen, goat's hair, tanned ram skins, and fine leather, acacia wood, oil for the light, spices, for the anointing oil, and for the fragrant incense. Onyx stones and other stones to be set for the ritual vest and breastplate. They are to make me a sanctuary, so that I may live among them. You are to make it according to everything I show you, the design of the tabernacle and the design of its furnishings. This is how you are to make it. They are to make an ark of acacia wood, 3 3/4 feet long, 2 1/4 feet wide, and 2 1/4 feet high. You are to overlay it with pure gold. Overlay it both inside and outside, and put a molding of gold around the top of it. Cast 4 gold rings for it, and attach them to its 4 feet, 2 rings on each side. Make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. Put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark. You will use them to carry the ark. The poles are to remain in the rings of the ark. They are not to be removed from it. Into the ark you are to put the testimony which I am about to give you. You are to make a cover for the ark out of pure gold. It is to be 3 3/4 feet long and 2 1/4 feet wide. You are to make 2 cherubim of gold. Make them of hammered work for the 2 ends of the ark cover. Make 1 cherub for one end and 1 cherub for the other end. Make the cherubim of one piece with the ark cover at its 2 ends. The cherubim will have their wings spread out above, so that the wings cover the ark, and their faces are toward each other and toward the ark cover. You are to put the ark cover on top of the ark. Inside the ark, you will put the testimony that I am about to give you. There I will meet with you. I will speak with you above the ark cover, from between the 2 cherubim which are on the ark for the testimony, about all the orders I am giving you for the people of Israel. You are to make a table of acacia wood, 3 feet long, 18 inches wide, and 18 inches high. Overlay it with pure gold, and put a molding of gold around the top of it. Make around it a rim, a hand's breadth wide, and put a molding of gold around the rim. Make 4 gold rings for it, and attach the rings to the 4 corners near its 4 legs. The rings to hold the poles used to carry the table are to be placed close to the rim. Make the poles of acacia wood. Overlay them with gold, and use them to carry the table. Make its dishes, pans, bowls, and pitchers of pure gold. On the table you are to place the bread of the presence, in my presence always. You are to make a menorah of pure gold. It is to be made of hammered work. Its base, shaft, cups, ring of outer leaves, and petals are to be made of one piece with it. It is to have 6 branches extending from its sides. 3 branches of the menorah on one side of it and 3 on the other. On one branch are to be 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with a ring of outer leaves and petals. Likewise, on the opposite branch, 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with a ring of outer leaves and petals. And similarly, for all 6 branches extending from the menorah. On the central shaft of the menorah are to be 4 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with its ring of outer leaves and petals. where each pair of branches joins the central shaft is to be a ring of outer leaves of one piece with the pair of branches. Thus for all 6 branches. The rings of outer leaves and their branches are to be of one piece with the shaft. Thus, the whole menorah is to be a single piece of hammered work made of pure gold. Make 7 lamps for the menorah and mount them so as to give light to the space in front of it. Its tongs and trays are to be of pure gold. The menorah and its utensils are to be made of 66 pounds of pure gold. See that you make them according to the design being shown you on the mountain. Chapter 26. You are to make the tabernacle with 10 sheets of finely woven linen and with blue, purple, and scarlet yarn. You are to make them with cherubim worked in that have been crafted by a skilled artisan. Each one is to be 42 feet long and 6 feet wide. All the sheets are to be the same size. 5 sheets are to be joined one to another, and the other 5 sheets are to be joined one to another. Make loops of blue on the edge of the outermost sheet in the first set, and do the same on the edge of the outermost sheet in the second set. Make 50 loops on the one sheet, and make 50 loops on the edge of the sheet in the second set. The loops are to be opposite one another. Make 50 fasteners of gold, and couple the sheets to each other with the fasteners, so that the tabernacle forms a single unit. You are to make sheets of goat's hair to be used as a tent covering the tabernacle. Make 11 sheets. Each sheet is to be 45 feet long and 6 feet wide. All 11 sheets are to be the same size. Join 5 sheets together with 6 sheets together, and fold the 6th sheet double at the front of the tent. Make 50 loops on the edge of the outermost sheet in the first set, and 50 loops on the edge of the outermost sheet in the second set. Make 50 fasteners of bronze. Put the fasteners in the loops and join the tent together so that it forms a single unit. As for the overhanging part that remains of the sheets forming the tent, the half sheet remaining is to hang over the back of the tabernacle. And the 18 inches on the one side and the 18 inches on the other side of that remaining in the length of the sheet forming the tent is to hang over the tabernacle to cover it on each side. You are to make a covering for the tent of tanned ram skins and an outer covering of fine leather. Make the upright planks for the tabernacle out of acacia wood. Each plank is to be 15 feet long and 2¼ feet wide. There are to be 2 projections on each plank, and the planks are to be joined one to another. This is how you are to make all the planks for the tabernacle. Make the planks for the tabernacle as follows: 20 planks for the south side facing southward. Make 40 silver sockets under the 20 planks, 2 sockets under one plank for its 2 projections, and 2 sockets under another plank for its 2 projections. For the second side of the tabernacle to the north, make 20 planks, and their 40 silver sockets, 2 sockets under one plank and 2 under another. For the rear part of the tabernacle, toward the west, make 6 planks. For the corners of the tabernacle in the rear, make 2 planks. These are to be double from the bottom all the way to the top, but joined at a single ring. Do the same with both of them. They are to form the 2 corners. Thus there will be 8 planks with their silver sockets, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under one plank and 2 under another. Make crossbars of acacia wood, 5 for the planks of the one side of the tabernacle, 5 crossbars for the planks of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 crossbars for the planks at the side of the tabernacle at the rear toward the west. The middle crossbar, halfway up the planks, is to extend from end to end. Overlay the planks with gold. Make gold rings for them, through which the crossbars will pass, and overlay the crossbars with gold. You are to erect the tabernacle according to the design you have been shown on the mountain. You're to make certain of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely woven linen. Make it with cherubim, worked in, that they have been crafted by a skilled artisan. Hang it with gold hooks on 4 acacia wood posts, overlaid with gold and standing in 4 silver sockets. Hang the curtain below the fasteners. Then bring the ark for the testimony inside the curtain. The curtain will be the divider for you between the holy place and the especially holy place. You are to put the ark cover on the ark for the testimony in the especially holy place. You are to put the table outside the curtain and the menorah opposite the table on the side of the tabernacle toward the south. Put the table on the north side. For the entrance to the tent, make a screen of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely woven linen. It should be in colors, the works of a weaver. For the screen, make 5 posts of acacia wood, overlay them with gold, and cast for them 5 sockets of bronze. Chapter 27. You are to make the altar of acacia wood, 7.5 feet long and 7.5 feet wide. The altar is to be square and 4.5 feet high. Make horns for it on its 4 corners. The horns are to be of one piece with it, and you are to overlay it with bronze. Make its pots for removing ashes, and its shovels, basins, meat hooks, and fire pans. All the utensils you are to make of bronze. Make for it a grate of bronze netting, and on the 4 corners of the netting, make 4 bronze rings. Put it under the rim of the altar, so that the netting reaches halfway up the altar. Make poles of acacia wood for the altar, and overlay them with bronze. Its poles are to be put into the rings. The poles are to be put on both sides of the altar for carrying it. The altar is to be made of planks and hollow inside. They are to make it just as you were shown on the mountain. Here's how you are to make the courtyard of the tabernacle. On the south side, facing southward, are to be tapestries for the courtyard made of finely woven linen, 150 feet for one side. Supported on 20 posts in 20 bronze sockets. The hooks on the post and the attached rings for hanging are to be of silver. Likewise, along the north side are to be tapestries 150 feet long, hung on 20 posts in 20 bronze sockets, with silver hooks and rings for the posts. Across the width of the courtyard on the west side are to be tapestries 75 feet long, hung on 10 posts in 10 sockets. The width of the courtyard on the east side, facing east, will be 75 feet. The tapestries for one side of the gateway will be 22.5 feet long, hung on 3 posts in 3 sockets. For the other side, there'll be tapestries 22.5 feet long on 3 posts in 3 sockets. For the gateway of the courtyard, there's to be a screen 30 feet long, made of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and finely woven linen. It should be in collars, the work of a weaver. It is to be on posts in 4 sockets. All the posts, all the way around the courtyard, are to be banded with silver and to stand in sockets of bronze. The length of the courtyard is to be 150 feet and the width 75 feet everywhere, with the height 7.5 feet. The tapestries and screen are to be of finely woven linen, and the sockets are to be of bronze. All the equipment needed for every kind of service in the tabernacle, as well as the tent pegs for the tabernacle and for the courtyard, are to be made of bronze. So, we have instructions here for the construction of the Mikdash. I was teasing someone earlier today, I think it was Tom. I said, if I'm late for class, I'll come running in that back door to the front, and you'll see a Mikdash. Okay. Right? Okay. But in Hebrew, this is the Mikdash, and it means sanctuary. Sanctuary. And the root word for Mikdash is Kof Dalet Shin, which is Kadosh, which is holy, holy, or set apart. So we have the sanctuary as a place that is set apart. The Mikdash is a holy place. It's a holy place. Hence, it's a sanctuary. Sanctuary is a holy place. Right? Okay. We also have the word used here in the Hebrew, which is Mishkan. Mishkan. Mishkan is the Hebrew word for tabernacle. Tabernacle. And the root for Mishkan, you'll notice they both start with a mem here. But the root word is the following 3 letters. That's true for Mishkan as well. And Shakan means dwell. Dwell. So we see that the tabernacle is a place where God will dwell. It's a sanctuary where God will dwell amongst his people. That was the purpose of the tabernacle. And that word tabernacle itself has the idea of dwelling, of a dwelling. The tabernacle is a dwelling. So this kind of makes us think of our own place here as well. At Messiah New Life Tabernacle, right? Of course. We've borrowed that terminology as well from Scripture, and we intend for this to be also a place, a sanctuary, a holy place where God dwells amongst us. But it's not so much the structure. When we say Messiah New Life Tabernacle, we are speaking in a spiritual sense, right? Yes, this is a physical location here, but what makes this place holy is the presence of God. And what makes this the sanctuary is your presence, because we have the Spirit of God dwelling within us. So wherever we go, that is a holy place where God can dwell and dwell with us. This is God's desire. And in fact, some of the sages, the Jewish sages of old, said that God did not actually intend to have them build a tabernacle. That his desire was to dwell with them. That was his intent, that was his desire. But that the instructions came because they withdrew. They pulled back from the presence of God. There was a lot of fear. They were afraid. And so they literally pushed Moshe, to be the mediator between them and God. They were terrified of the might and power and majesty of God. Yet, in this endeavor here, that's just what the sages say. God knew what was going to happen all along. He knows. He knows our hearts better than we know ourselves, of course. He's our creator, so he knows. But part of this that God has brought about here with the whole nation, there's a beauty here that I hope you were able to capture during the reading of the bringing together. These are God's words themselves. He's speaking directly here. This is the instructions that were given. And there were moments within that reading in which Moses was enjoined to follow the pattern that was shown him on the mountain. We have that, in fact, in 3 instances. Exodus 25, verse 9. That's the first mention of the pattern. Then Exodus 25, verse 40 is the second mention of the pattern. And then there is also in 25, verse 40, there is the third mention of the pattern as well. So we have the pattern, this pattern that is mentioned. And all the things that are going to be required to build the tabernacle and set up the tabernacle, all the offerings that were asked, that becomes the name of this parashah. The Hebrew word is terumah, and terumah means offering or gift. And these gifts that are given, this is a beautiful thing because they're all voluntary. The gifts are not required. The gifts are all voluntary. And the people were anxious to give. For me, in a lot of respects, when I think about these Israelites that had been delivered from slavery, and they had seen the power and might of God, and they had their times of rejoicing, but there was also the times of grumbling and disobedience and refusal to obey. And unfortunately, maybe, I don't know if it's unfortunate or not, but I think it's unfortunate. Unfortunately, particularly for replacement theology mindset Christian believers, the focus, and I know that, I speak from experience there, the focus is on their failures. How we would never be that way. We would never behave like that if we had seen the wonders of God. If we saw manna. If we actually ate manna bread from heaven. Lechem shamayim. Right? Manna. What is it? Wow. Yet here we see not something negative, but something really to celebrate. The fact that they were so anxious to give and to freely give. Gold, a lot of it. Silver, and a lot of it. Bronze, and a lot of it. And then the yarn, purple yarn, very expensive. Scarlet yarn, not quite as expensive as purple, but still up there pretty high. Commanding price, very valuable. And so we see all this, the yarn, and then all the other, the ram skins, the translation uses the word fine leather. We really don't know what that creature was, that leather was made from. It was nothing common. The sages, in fact, say it was a multicolored leather from a creature that no longer exists. So, whose perhaps existence was permitted just for this purpose. That's the sages' view. They see it as just another miracle of God's creation. So, and we don't know. We don't know what it was. But we do have the Hebrew word for the creature, which no longer exists. Okay. Comments or questions at this point? There we go. Oh. No? You have a comment?
You're talking about badger skin? That word badger skin?
Okay. What's that?
It's, well, badger unclean, but what I fill it in with what you just said.
Oh, yeah,
Because
yeah,
they don't
okay.
know if it was unclean, so it's very interesting, but
Yeah. We've heard different translations for that.
that was real good.
I even heard dolphins.
Oh, mm-hmm. Yeah.
In the end, my sages agreed with you that they don't know what it is. But part of the study that I found even proposed that it could be a unicorn, and I kind of like that.
Okay, we don't have much time left this morning, but there's another point I'd like to make, unless somebody else has a comment at this point. There is yeah.
Why the emphasis on almonds? What's the significance?
What is the significance of?
Almonds,
Oh, almonds.
the flower, the leaves, the almond shape.
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Does anybody have an idea why almonds? Because, I didn't even think to research that particular question. It's a great one, though. It's a great question because it's encompassed, particularly with the menorah. And one of the spiritual significance of the menorah, besides the light that is, imagine this. Calculations, of course, these measurements and weights are kind of generalized. We don't know exactly. But 66 pounds. The lowest I've heard has been like 50 pounds, and the highest is like 70 pounds of gold. Have any idea what that's worth today? All of one piece, a work of art. So the point is, there's a significance here. It was all made from one piece as well, but they were almond blossoms.
Yeah, and how do you make tubes inside of gold to hold oil?
Now you're thinking. And imagine that. Imagine that. because this was the tabernacle. There were artisans. There were artisans. So there are those that gave. There were those that gave these offerings. But there were also those that gave of their skills. There were some people that came out of Egypt that were highly skilled. And I'm sure their owners hated losing them. I'm sure. Because some of these skills were amazing. And so we were later on we will see some mentioning of some of these people actually by name who were so skilled in the creation of the construction of the tabernacle. Okay. All right, very good. We have time for another comment, I think.
Oh, okay. I have read that people have tried to make the menorah, to spec, and just the weight of the gold, the pure gold, it couldn't support itself. Because, 24 karat gold is soft.
That's
and
true.
I
Yeah.
just thought that was interesting.
That's very interesting because with the other construction of the other items, you had support structure. The acacia wood was overlaid with gold. And even the staves, the chariot, acacia wood, overlaid with gold. So there was a lot of even these things. And the construction and the description, it's quite remarkable. It's quite remarkable. But the gold of the menorah, we don't know how that was constructed. All right. Okay, very good. Thank you for your attention. Okay.